to be truthful on their own right. All of the stories that take place in the book of Genesis are riveting, fascinating. They impart great lessons for living and for learning, for absorbing, and they seem to teach different lessons as we open these books on successive years. And yet just beneath the surface of the text lie even more powerful lessons. Just under the surface, if we peel away the primary level, the primary layer, we find something powerful just beneath. Here's an example. This week's Torah reading is called Toldot. These are the generations of Abraham's son, Isaac. And so many of the Hasidic masters, and including the greatest expositor of all time, Rashi asks, why do we bother to list Isaac as Abraham's son? Isaac is one of the greatest men who ever lived since the beginning of the world. We recite his name 3 times a day against his father and against his son, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob. We don't need a reminder that he's the son of Abraham as we open up this week's Torah reading. And yet the Hasidic masters, and again Rashi, pay very special attention to this idea as they note that Isaac really doesn't stand on his own feet, that he is born into the shadow of his great father Abraham and is destined to live his entire days in that same shadow, that Isaac's power, his sense of self, is so humble and so secondary to that of his father's looming shadow that he even himself acknowledges that he is not Isaac simply, but he is Isaac, the son of Abraham. And as we continue to ferret out this idea even further, we find that many of the midrashic sources understand that Abraham had a great yeshiva, an academy of learning, that attracted thousands of students from all over the globe that flocked to Abraham to absorb his wisdom and understanding of there being a unified whole in the world, there being a single God. Now, Isaac continued in the same path as his father, but Isaac only had a single student, his son, Jacob. But wait, you're beginning to ask. Isaac didn't have simply one son, he had 2. And this perhaps is also the failure of Isaac's life, that he was only able to even attract one of his 2 sons to his learning, instead of both, notwithstanding the fact that Abraham attracted thousands of people, of other people that were totally unrelated to him, whereas Isaac succeeded in only attracting one of his 2 sons. What does all this mean? Perhaps its import is so powerful that we might miss it. The powerful nature of the meaning of this text is that we shouldn't put ourselves up against other people, that we shouldn't measure our success or failures against that of others, that we only have to live up to our own standards. We have to become ourselves in our life. It's so very easy to say, I made more money than you, therefore I'm a successful person, or I made less money than you, and therefore I'm a failure, or I'm more famous, or you're less famous, or I'm less famous and you're more famous, or whatever criteria that we want to cite in the world to measure ourselves against somebody else is wrong-headed, wrong-minded. Just like Isaac ultimately stood on his own feet and became the incarnation of Gevurah, of true independent strength. His independence and his power was only to be measured against his own innate abilities, not that of Abraham. Abraham we associate with Hesed, with that of generosity of spirit outward towards other people, whereas Isaac's strength was that of understanding who he was on his own feet. Gevurah, power that radiated from his soul. The greatest thing we'll ever have to attend to in our life is to rise to our own potential, not to someone else's.